the house of night, Nyx and the beginning of darkness. A gentle journey into the ancient mysteries of the primordial night. Close your eyes now and let yourself drift backward through time. Backward through the centuries, through the millennia, through ages so ancient that stone had not yet been carved, that writing had not yet been invented, that the very stars themselves seemed younger in the sky. We are traveling tonight to a time before time had a name, to the very edge of human memory, where history dissolves into mythology, and mythology whispers the deepest truths our ancestors knew. Tonight we rest in the embrace of Nyx, the primordial goddess of night itself. Let the darkness around you become soft, welcoming, ancient. There is nothing to fear here. Only stories, only sleep, only the gentle unfolding of one of humanity's oldest tales. Part 1. Before the beginning. In the beginning, or perhaps before the beginning, there was only chaos. Not chaos as we understand it today, not disorder or confusion, but something far more profound. The ancient Greeks, in their wisdom, understood chaos as a vast, yawning void, an emptiness that was somehow also fullness, a darkness that contained all possibility. Imagine, if you will, the moment before creation. No light, no darkness as we know it, no up or down, no here or there. Only chaos, the primal abyss, breathing slowly in the infinite nowhere. And from this chaos, or perhaps existing alongside it, for the ancient sources disagree, and their disagreement is itself part of the mystery, came Nyx. Nyx. The word itself sounds like a whisper in the dark, like the rustle of wings, like the soft settling of evening over the world. Nyx, whose name means simply night, but who was so much more than mere absence of light. She was darkness personified, darkness given form and consciousness and will. She was the night before there was a day to distinguish it from. She was shadow before there were objects to cast shadows. She was the closing of eyes before there were eyes to close. The poet Hesiod, writing in the 8th century before the Common Era, tried to capture her origins in his great work, the Theogony, the genealogy of the gods. Picture Hesiod perhaps on a hillside in ancient Boeotia, tending his sheep in the darkness, looking up at the star-scattered sky and wondering, as humans have always wondered, where everything came from. How did the world begin? Who were the first beings? What came before Zeus and the familiar gods of Olympus? And in his wondering, guided by the muses, or so he claimed, Hesiod reached back to the very root of things. He told of chaos, the first to exist. And then almost immediately he told of Gaia, the earth, and Tartaros, the deep abyss beneath the earth, and Eros, primordial love, and Nyx, always Nyx. She emerged from chaos, or with chaos, a fundamental force of the cosmos. She was not created. She came into being, as inevitable as existence itself. In some accounts, she had no mother, no father. She simply was, as the night simply is, returning each evening without fail, without needing permission, without requiring explanation. Picture her if you can, though the ancient Greeks rarely tried to give her fixed form. Sometimes she was imagined as a beautiful woman draped in star-spangled robes of deepest black. Sometimes she was depicted with great dark wings, like the night itself spreading across the sky. Sometimes she rode in a chariot drawn by black horses, racing across the heavens, pulling the curtain of darkness behind her. And sometimes she was simply the darkness itself, with no form at all, present everywhere that light was not. Part 2. The house at the edge of the world. But Nyx was not merely an abstract force. She had a home, a dwelling place, and what a dwelling place it was. The ancient Greeks spoke of her house with a mixture of awe and dread, for it stood at the very edge of the cosmos, at the boundary between the world of the living and the realm of the dead. Imagine, in your drowsy state, a journey to this place. We would have to travel far, far beyond the lands known to the ancient Greeks, beyond Greece itself, beyond the Mediterranean Sea, beyond the pillars of Heracles that marked the edge of the known world. We would sail west, ever west, across the great ocean that the Greeks believed encircled all lands, until we came to a place where the sky seemed to lower itself toward the water, where twilight lasted forever, where the boundary between worlds grew thin. And there, according to the ancient myths, stood the house of Nyx. It was a place of profound contradiction, this house. It stood in Tartaros, that deepest pit beneath the earth, and yet it also stood at the far western edge of the world, where the sun sank into the ocean each night. It was both beneath and beyond, both down and across, existing in that strange geography that myths alone can navigate, where literal place becomes symbolic space, where physical location yields to spiritual significance. The house itself was said to be bronze, or perhaps stone, or perhaps it was made of the very substance of night, solidified into walls and roof. Before it, or perhaps around it, stood great bronze gates, and these gates were themselves wonders, for they marked the boundary between day and night, between light and darkness, between the waking world and the realm of dreams. Hesiod tells us, in verses that have survived nearly 3,000 years, that here at these gates, night and day meet but never linger together. As one enters, the other departs. As Nyx returns home at dawn, Hemera, day, her daughter, leaves to spread light across the world. As evening falls and Hemera returns, Nyx emerges, spreading her darkness over all. They greet each other briefly at the threshold, one always coming while the other goes, an eternal rhythm, a cosmic changing of the guard. Can you see it? The bronze threshold polished by eons of divine footsteps. The moment of transition when twilight holds the world suspended. The quiet greeting between mother and daughter, a touch of hands, a murmur of words, and then the continuation of their endless cycle. Never resting together, never both absent, maintaining through their eternal dance the rhythm that governs all existence. Day and night, light and dark, waking and sleeping. And inside this house, Nyx dwelt with her many children, for the goddess of night was remarkably fertile, bringing forth from the darkness a vast progeny. Children who embodied the mysteries, the fears, the experiences, and the inevitable facts of existence. Part 3. The Children of Darkness. Let us enter now, in our imagination, into the house of night and meet the children who dwelt there. Some were born from Nyx alone, through parthenogenesis. The ancient Greeks said, spawned from darkness without need of another. Others she bore with her brother Erebus, who was primordial darkness as she was primordial night, two faces of the same shadowed coin. First among her children, perhaps, were Aetha and Hemera, light and day. Yes, strangely enough, from night came day. From darkness came light. The ancient Greeks understood this paradox in a way we might have forgotten, that opposites are born from each other, that light emerges from darkness just as darkness follows light, that each contains the seed of its opposite. Aetha was the bright upper air, the pure light of the heavens, so different from the common air that mortals breathed. Hemera was day itself, the hours of sunlight that alternated with her mother's darkness. Together they would leave the house of night each evening, traveling across the world to bring illumination, only to return each dawn while Nyx went forth in her turn. But Nyx had other children, darker children, children who remained with her in the shadowed halls of her bronze house. There was Maros, whose name meant doom, the inevitability of fate, the appointed destiny that awaited all things. Can you feel him in the house? A solemn presence, neither good nor evil but simply inevitable, the embodiment of that which must be. There were the Keres, spirits of violent death, sometimes depicted as dark women with gnashing teeth and blood-stained claws. They hovered over battlefields, they swept down upon the dying, they were death's handmaidens. Yet they too had their place in the natural order, for death, the Greeks knew, was as fundamental as life. There was Thanatos, death himself, twin brother to Hypnos, sleep. How the Greeks loved this pairing, sleep and death, brothers born of night. Thanatos was not, in the Greek imagination, a terrifying skeleton with a scythe. He was more often depicted as a gentle young man with wings, sometimes carrying an inverted torch, its flame extinguished. He was the peaceful end, the final sleep, the closing of eyes for the last time. And he dwelt in his mother's house in the deep darkness, in the quiet of eternal night. And beside him dwelt Hypnos, sleep, perhaps the most beloved of Nyx's children, at least by mortals. Hypnos was soft and gentle, bringing rest to weary humans, closing their eyes each night with a touch of his hand or the brush of his wings. He was often depicted as a beautiful young man with wings sprouting from his shoulders or temples, carrying a horn of opium or a poppy stem, symbols of sleep-inducing drowsiness. Hypnos had his own sons, the Waniroi, the dreams. They were 1,000 in number, or 3, or uncounted, the myths vary. But the most famous were Morpheus, who brought human-shaped dreams, Phantasos, who brought dreams of inanimate objects, and Phobter or Aislos, who brought nightmares, dreams of animals and monsters. These dreams dwelt in the house of night with their father, emerging each evening to visit sleeping mortals, bringing visions, messages, memories, and fantasies. But there were other children of Nyx, children whose names send a small shiver down the spine even now, even as we rest here safely in our beds. There was Nemesis, divine retribution, the punishment that comes to those who overreach, who display hubris, who disturb the natural order. She was neither good nor evil, but rather the cosmos's way of maintaining balance, of ensuring that no one rose too high or claimed too much. There was Eris, strife, goddess of discord, whose golden apple would one day cause the Trojan War, whose love of conflict and competition drove gods and mortals alike to quarrel and compete. There was Apate, deceit, who represented lies, trickery, fraud. Darkness, after all, is where deception hides, where truth becomes obscured, where things are not what they seem. There were the Morai, though some sources gave them different parentage, the 3 fates, Clotho, who spun the thread of life, Lachesis, who measured it, and Atropos, who cut it. They determined the lifespan and destiny of every mortal, and perhaps even of gods. Even Zeus himself, some said, could not override their decisions. There was Gaira's old age, that inevitable decline that comes to all living things, represented sometimes as a tiny shriveled creature, sometimes as a gaunt old man. He too was a child of night, for aging happened slowly, quietly in darkness, the body declining one cell at a time, one night's sleep at a time, until youth has vanished like a dream. There was Oises, misery, and her brother Momus, blame, the sadness and fault-finding that plague human existence. There were the Hesperides, though again sources varied on their parentage, the nymphs of evening and the golden light of sunset, guardians of the golden apples that granted immortality. And there was Philotes, friendship or affection, for not all of night's children were dark. From the shadows came love and connection as well as fear and death. The darkness, the Greeks knew, contained multitudes. It was not simply evil or good, but rather the deep well from which all experiences flowed. Part 4, Nyx in the World. But Nyx did not remain always in her house at the edge of the cosmos. Each evening, as Hemera returned from spreading day across the world, Nyx would emerge. She would spread her veil across the sky, darkening the heavens, bringing night to gods and mortals alike. The ancient poets described her journey in various ways. Sometimes she rode in a chariot pulled by black horses, their hooves striking sparks from the air that became stars. Sometimes she flew on dark wings, vast wings that could cover half the sky when fully spread. Sometimes she simply flowed across the heavens like smoke, like shadow, like the darkness that needs no vehicle because it is already everywhere that light is not. And as she traveled, she brought with her the deep peace of night. The world would quiet. The sun would sink beneath the horizon, and Nyx would draw her starry veil over all. Farmers would return from their fields. Children would be called inside. Families would gather for their evening meals. And then, as the darkness deepened, they would lie down to sleep, surrendering themselves to Nyx and her son Hypnos, trusting in the natural cycle, knowing that morning would come again, that Hemera would return, that the darkness was not an ending but a necessary interlude. In Greece, as night fell, people would sometimes pour libations to Nyx, offering wine or milk to the earth in her honor. They respected her, these ancient people. They understood that night was powerful, that darkness was necessary, that the world needed rest as much as it needed light. There were few temples to Nyx. She was too ancient, too primal to be worshipped in the way the Olympian gods were, but there were sacred places associated with her. In Megara, there was an oracle of Nyx, where priests would interpret dreams and visions that came in the darkness. In various locations, caves and grottos were sacred to her, natural places where darkness gathered, where one could feel the presence of the primordial night. And people told stories about her, stories that revealed her power and the respect even the gods had for her. Part 5. The Power of the Primordial. There is a story, recorded by Homer in the Iliad, that reveals just how powerful Nyx was, how even the king of the gods feared her. It happened during the Trojan War, that great conflict that obsessed the ancient Greeks. The gods themselves had taken sides, some supporting the Greeks, others the Trojans. Zeus, king of the gods, had decreed that the immortals should not interfere in the fighting, but his wife Hera, who hated the Trojans, could not help but meddle, aiding the Greek forces in subtle ways. Zeus discovered her interference and flew into a rage. He threatened her with violence, promising to punish her severely for disobeying him. Hera, frightened of her husband's wrath, fled. She ran from Olympus, seeking refuge, seeking someone or something that could protect her even from the might of Zeus. And where did she run? To whom did she flee? To Hypnos, Sleep, the son of Nyx. Hera found Hypnos and begged him to help her. She asked him to put Zeus to sleep, to close the All-Father's eyes so that he would not carry out his threats. Hypnos was reluctant. He remembered the last time he had helped Hera against Zeus. On that occasion, too, he had put Zeus to sleep at Hera's request, and when the king of gods awoke and discovered the deception, his fury had been terrible. Hypnos had fled in terror, and Zeus had pursued him, ready to hurl him from the heights of Olympus down into the abyss of the sea. But Hypnos had escaped that fate. He had fled to his mother. He had run to Nyx, taken shelter in her darkness, hidden in her protective shadow. And Zeus, for all his power, for all his thunderbolts and his wrath, had stopped his pursuit. He had held back. He had not dared to offend Nyx. Even Zeus respects the ancient night, Homer tells us. The king of gods, the wielder of lightning, the supreme ruler of Olympus, even he would not risk the wrath of primordial darkness. This is the power of Nyx. This is the respect accorded to the firstborn children of chaos. They existed before the Olympians, before the Titans, before the structured cosmos that Zeus ruled. They were fundamental forces, woven into the very fabric of existence. One could no more oppose Nyx than one could oppose night itself. One could no more fight her than one could fight the darkness that returned each evening without fail. Zeus might rule the sky, Poseidon might rule the sea, Hades might rule the underworld, but Nyx ruled something more primal than all of these, the darkness from which everything had emerged, the night into which everything would one day return. Part 6. Nyx and the Ancient Mind. To understand Nyx, we must understand how the ancient Greeks thought about darkness, about night, about the unseen hours when the world withdrew from sight. For them, night was not merely the absence of day. It was not simply the time when the sun happened to be on the other side of the earth. Night was its own presence, its own power. It was a goddess who arrived each evening, who covered the world with her veil, who brought both rest and danger, dreams and terrors. The Greeks did not have electric lights. When night fell, it fell completely. Cities went dark. Villages went dark. Only a few torches or oil lamps pushed back against the vast blackness. And in that darkness, the world transformed. Familiar streets became strange. Every sound was magnified. Every shadow could hide something unknown. Night was the time when the boundaries between worlds grew thin. It was when ghosts might walk. It was when dreams came, those mysterious visions that seemed to carry messages from gods or from the dead. It was when Hecate walked abroad with her torches and her hounds, goddess of crossroads and magic and the dark moon. It was when witches might perform their rituals, when owls called, when wolves howled. But night was also rest. It was the daily death that prefigured the final death, the small surrender that renewed life. Every evening, people would lie down, close their eyes, and let consciousness slip away. They would die, in a sense, and be reborn with the dawn. Sleep was a mystery, a temporary death, and death himself was called sleep's brother for this reason. Nyx encompassed all of this. She was both the terror of darkness and the peace of rest. She was both the unknown and the familiar. She was both ending and renewal. In Orphic traditions, those mystery religions that flourished in the ancient Greek world, with their secret rites and hidden knowledge, Nyx was even more central and more powerful. The Orphics taught that Nyx was among the very first beings, emerging with or even before chaos. Some Orphic cosmogonies placed her at the absolute beginning, making her the mother of all things. In these traditions, Nyx was sometimes said to live in a cave, far away at the boundaries of the cosmos. From this cave she delivered prophecies and oracles, for she knew all secrets, past, present, and future. Even the great gods would come to her for wisdom, for advice, for knowledge of what was to come. The Orphics saw in Nyx a figure of tremendous wisdom and power, a goddess who understood the deepest mysteries because she herself was one of the deepest mysteries. She was the darkness before light, the silence before sound, the void before creation. To know her was to know the fundamental nature of existence itself. Part 7. Darkness in Religion and Philosophy. As Greek civilization developed, as philosophy emerged, and thinkers began to question the old myths, trying to understand the cosmos in more systematic ways, Nyx and her darkness took on new significance. The pre-Socratic philosophers, those bold thinkers who lived before Socrates and tried to explain the world through reason rather than myth, still spoke of darkness and night as fundamental principles. Parmenides, the philosopher from Elea, spoke of two ways, the way of light and truth, and the way of darkness and seeming. Darkness for him represented the world of appearances, the realm of change and becoming, as opposed to the eternal, unchanging reality that reason could grasp. Heraclitus, the obscure philosopher of Ephesus who spoke in riddles and paradoxes, understood that opposites were interconnected. Day and night are one, he claimed. Light and darkness were not enemies but aspects of the same cosmic unity, flowing into each other, defining each other, unable to exist without each other. Empedocles spoke of love and strife as the two great forces moving the cosmos, and strife, remember, was Eris, one of the children of Nyx, born from the primordial darkness. Even Plato, the great philosopher, could not entirely escape the power of Nyx. In his cosmology, there was the realm of forms, eternal and unchanging, and the realm of becoming, shadowy and impermanent. The physical world was like a cave, he taught, where humans saw only shadows on the wall, mistaking them for reality. Darkness, shadow, night. These were not merely physical phenomena for Plato, but metaphors for a certain kind of existence, a certain kind of knowing. And in the religious practices of the Greeks, darkness remained powerful. The mystery religions, the Eleusinian mysteries, the Orphic mysteries, the Dionysian rites, all made use of darkness, of night, of the unseen. At Eleusis, initiates into the mysteries of Demeter and Persephone underwent rituals that took place at night in darkness. They fasted, they drank the kykeon, they entered the telesterion, the great hall, in darkness. And there, something was revealed to them, something that changed them, something that gave them hope for the afterlife. We don't know what they saw. The mysteries were kept secret and the initiates never told. But it happened in darkness, in the realm of Nyx. The darkness was necessary for revelation. In the darkness, the ordinary world fell away. In the darkness, one could perceive things invisible in the light. In the darkness, the veil between worlds grew thin and the gods could draw near. Part 8. The Roman Nox and Beyond. When the Romans conquered Greece and absorbed Greek culture, they absorbed Greek gods as well, translating them, adapting them, making them their own. And so Nyx became Nox, the Roman personification of night. Nox was much the same as Nyx, a primordial goddess of darkness, mother of sleep and death and dreams, dweller at the edge of the world. The Romans, practical and military though they were, still respected the power of night, still recognized in darkness a force that preceded and transcended human concerns. The poet Virgil in his Aeneid invoked Nox as he described nightfall. Now is the time when first sleep comes to weary mortals, and by the will of the gods steals upon them most welcome. Night was rest, blessed rest, the daily gift that allowed humans to continue, that renewed their strength, that gave them dreams. The poet Ovid in his Metamorphoses described Nox dwelling in her cave at the far reaches of the world, wrapped in perpetual twilight, mother of Somnus sleep and his sons the dreams. Ovid painted a picture of drowsy peace, the cave quiet, a stream of lethe flowing nearby, poppies growing at the entrance, all enveloped in mist and shadow and silence. And as Rome itself eventually fell, as the classical world gave way to the medieval, Nyx Nox did not disappear. She transformed, she evolved, she found new expressions. Christian tradition, of course, had its own understanding of light and darkness. Light was associated with God, with Christ, with truth and revelation. God is light, and in him is no darkness at all, proclaimed the first epistle of John. Darkness was associated with sin, with ignorance, with the devil. But even in this new framework, darkness could not be entirely villainized. Night was still when monks rose for their midnight prayers, the vigils that drew them closer to God. Night was still when contemplatives sought solitude and silence, when mystics received their visions. Night was still necessary, still a time set apart, still holy in its own way. And beneath the Christian surface, memories of Nyx persisted. In folk traditions, in fairy tales, in the deep stories that people told in the darkness, the old understanding of night as a power, as a presence, as something almost alive, never quite died. Part 9. The Dream of Eternal Night. Let us return now in our drowsy imagination to the house of Nyx. Let us picture it more clearly. Let us walk through its bronze doors. Let us explore its shadowed halls. The air inside is cool and still. No sound intrudes here, or rather, the sounds that exist are soft and distant. The rustle of wings, the whisper of voices too quiet to understand, the slow breathing of those who sleep and those who wait. The halls are vast. They seem to extend forever into darkness. Here and there, a dim light glows, not torches exactly, but something softer, something that seems to emanate from the air itself, a faint luminescence like starlight reflected on still water. In one hall, Hypnos reclines on a soft couch, his wings folded around him. He looks peaceful, always half asleep himself, his eyes heavy-lidded. Around him, his sons, the Waniroi, come and go like shadows, preparing for their nightly work. They carry with them the materials of dreams, images, emotions, memories, fantasies. Soon they will fly forth to visit sleeping mortals across the world, bringing visions of every kind. In another chamber, Thanatos sits quietly. He is not frightening to look upon, no skeleton, no scythe. He appears young, beautiful even, but there is a finality in his stillness, a certainty in his gaze. He does not sleep as his brother does. He simply waits, knowing that eventually all mortals will come to him, that death is the one truly democratic institution, visiting rich and poor, noble and common, mighty and weak. The more I work in a third chamber, if it can be called work when it is so effortless, so inevitable. Clotho spins her thread, drawing out the fiber of life. Lachesis measures it, determining the length of each mortal's existence. Atropos cuts it with her shears, and a life ends. They do not speak as they work. They do not need to. They have been doing this since time began, and they will continue until time ends. In darker corners, the more troubling children dwell. The Keres hover restlessly, waiting for the wars and disasters that will give them their due. Eris plots and plans, always seeking new ways to sow discord. Apate weaves her lies. But even these darker children have their place, have their purpose in the grand design. And at the center of it all, in the deepest, most shadowed chamber, Nyx herself rests during the day. We cannot see her clearly, the darkness is too complete. but we can sense her presence, vast and ancient, powerful and peaceful. She is resting now after her night's work of spreading darkness across the world. Soon she will rise again. Soon she will emerge from her bronze house. Soon she will begin her journey across the sky. But for now she rests, and in her rest there is a kind of lesson for us. Part 10. The Wisdom of Darkness. The ancient Greeks, in their stories of Nyx, were telling us something important about the nature of existence, something we might have forgotten in our world of constant light, our cities that never truly grow dark, our screens that glow at all hours. They were telling us that darkness is not the enemy. They were reminding us that rest is necessary. They were teaching us that the unseen is as real as the seen, that the night has its own wisdom, that darkness contains as much truth as light. Nyx, in her primordial power, represents the necessity of the hidden, the value of the occult, in its original sense of concealed, the importance of what we cannot see or control or fully understand. In darkness we rest. In darkness we dream. In darkness we let go of the demands of the visible world and enter another realm entirely. In darkness we are vulnerable, yes, but also renewed. We lie down, we close our eyes, we trust that morning will come, and in that trust, in that daily surrender, we participate in one of the oldest patterns of existence. Every sunset is a little death. Every sleep is a rehearsal for the final sleep. But every sunrise is a resurrection. Every waking is a rebirth. And it is Nyx who makes this possible. Nyx who draws the boundary. Nyx who says, here the day ends, here the night begins. Here you must let go, here you must trust. The House of Night is not a place of horror, despite its dark children. It is a place of necessity. It is where the fundamental processes of existence dwell. It is where sleep waits to refresh us, where death waits to complete us, where dreams wait to teach us, where fate waits to guide us. And Nyx herself, the lady of this house, is not cruel. She is ancient and vast and powerful beyond measure, yes. Even Zeus fears her, but she is not malevolent. She is simply one of the great forces that makes existence possible. Without her darkness, there could be no light, for how would we know light if there were no darkness to contrast it with? Without her night, there could be no day. Without her rest, there could be no waking. Part 11. Nyx in Art and Imagination. Through the centuries, artists have tried to capture Nyx, to give her form, to represent the unrepresentable. In ancient Greek pottery, she appears occasionally, usually as a woman in dark robes, sometimes with wings. She is beautiful but also remote, other, not quite human despite her human shape. In later art, during the Renaissance and Baroque periods, when artists rediscovered classical mythology, Nyx appears in paintings and sculptures. She is often shown as a dark-haired woman, draped in midnight blue or black, scattered with stars. Sometimes she holds a sleeping child, Hypnos perhaps, or one of the dreams. Sometimes she is shown in her chariot, racing across the sky. The Romantic poets in the 18th and 19th centuries were fascinated by night, by darkness, by the mysteries that light could not reach. They wrote odes to night, invocations to darkness, poems exploring the strange freedom and terror and beauty of the nighttime world. Novalis, the German Romantic poet, wrote his hymns to the night, ecstatic poems celebrating darkness. Downward I turn to the holy, unspeakable, mysterious night. Afar lies the world, sunk in a deep vault. Waste and lonely is its place. John Keats, the English Romantic, wrote to sleep, that son of Nyx. O soft embalmer of the still midnight shutting, with careful fingers and benign, our gloom-pleased eyes. For these poets, darkness and night were not merely absence but presence, not merely negation but their own positive reality. In darkness, they found freedom from the harsh judgments of daylight. In night, they found space for imagination, for emotion, for the wild and the strange and the beautiful. And in our own time, Nyx continues to appear. In fantasy literature, in role-playing games, in modern retellings of classical myths, in art and music and film, the ancient goddess of night still has her place. She has become an archetype, a symbol, a way of talking about darkness and mystery and the unknown. Part 12, the eternal return. Each evening, as the sun sinks toward the horizon, as the light begins to fail, as shadows lengthen and the air grows cool, we experience what the ancient Greeks experienced. We participate in the same cycle that has governed existence since the beginning. Nyx is spreading her veil again, Hemera is withdrawing, day is giving way to night. And what do? We turn on lights, yes. We push back the darkness with our electric bulbs, our screens, our neon signs. We try to extend the day, to delay the night's arrival. But eventually, we surrender. We grow tired. Our eyes grow heavy. And we do what humans have always done. We lie down, we close our eyes, we let ourselves drift into the realm of hypnos, into the domain of Nyx. In sleep, we are in her house. We are guests in that bronze dwelling at the edge of the world. The dreams come to us. The darkness enfolds us. We surrender consciousness, control, awareness. We trust that we will wake again, that dawn will come, that Hemera will return. And she does, always she does. The cycle continues, unbroken since the world began. This is the gift of Nyx. This is her blessing. Not terror, not fear, not horror, though darkness can hold these things, but rest, renewal, the daily death that makes daily life possible. The Greeks understood this. They honored Nyx not as a demon or a monster, but as a fundamental force, a necessary presence. They told stories about her to remind themselves that darkness had its place, that night was not to be feared but accepted, that the unseen was as real as the seen. Part 13, the deep mysteries. In the deepest mysteries, in the secret teachings of the Orphics and other mystery cults, Nyx represented something even more profound. She was the darkness of the womb, the void of potential, the pregnant nothingness from which all things emerged. Before there was light, there was darkness. Before there was form, there was the formless. Before there was the cosmos, ordered, structured, rational. There was the primal dark, containing all possibilities, defined by no limitations. Nyx was this original darkness, and in a strange way she was still present in all subsequent darkness. Every night that fell was her night. Every shadow was her shadow. Every moment of blindness, every time eyes closed, every instance of the unseen, there was Nyx. To honor her was to honor the unknown, the unknowable, the mysterious ground of being itself. The mysteries, of course, cannot be fully explained. That is the nature of mysteries. They must be experienced, not described. They must be undergone, not analyzed. And they took place in darkness, in the realm of Nyx, where ordinary sight failed and other kinds of perception became possible. What did the initiates see in the telesterion at Eleusis? What was revealed to them in that darkness? We cannot know, not because the secret has been lost, though it has, but because even if we knew the words, the actions, the rituals, we would not truly know. We would have to be there in the darkness, having fasted and prepared, having opened ourselves to the experience. Only then could we know. But we can say this. It had something to do with death and rebirth. It had something to do with Persephone descending to the underworld and returning. It had something to do with seeds buried in darkness and sprouting into light. It had something to do with the pattern of descent and ascent, of dying and living, of darkness and light. And Nyx was part of this mystery. Nyx, the darkness into which all things descend. Nyx, the rest from which all things arise renewed. Part 14, Night in the Cosmos. The ancient Greeks, looking up at the night sky, saw Nyx's starry veil spread above them. They traced patterns in the stars. They told stories about the constellations. They navigated by the steady lights in the darkness. The night sky, in their understanding, was not empty. It was full of stars, full of meaning, full of divine presence. Nyx had scattered stars across her dark robes, or perhaps the stars were her eyes, watching the world below, or perhaps they were holes in the canopy of night through which the celestial fire shone through. They noticed that the stars wheeled overhead in a great slow circle. never changing their positions relative to each other but rotating around a fixed point, the pole star, which they knew as Polaris, or sometimes called the nail on which the sky turned. They noticed that some lights moved against this fixed background, the planets, which they called wanderers because they wandered across the constellations. These wanderers were gods: Aphrodite, Venus; Ares, Mars; Zeus, Jupiter; Cronus, Saturn; and Hermes, Mercury. The gods themselves traveled through Nyx's realm, lights moving through the darkness. They noticed the moon, pale Selene, sister to Helios the sun, traveling through the night sky, waxing and waning, full and new, governing the months, pulling the tides. All of this happened in Nyx's domain, in the darkness that fell each evening. The night was not empty. It was populated, alive, meaningful. And this understanding, that the night sky was full of significance, full of pattern, full of divine presence, shaped how they thought about darkness itself. Darkness was not mere absence. It was a space in which things existed, in which meaning could be found, in which the cosmos revealed itself. Modern astronomy, of course, has given us a different understanding. We know that the stars are distant suns. We know that the planets are worlds like our own. We know that the moon reflects sunlight and has no light of its own. We know about galaxies and nebulae and black holes and the vast scales of cosmic space and time. But in a strange way, the essential truth remains. The night sky is full, not empty. It is filled with wonders, with mysteries, with things beyond our complete comprehension. And it is in darkness that we see these wonders most clearly. It is at night that the cosmos reveals itself to us. It is in the absence of the sun's overwhelming light that the distant lights of other suns become visible. Nyx's gift, then, is revelation through concealment. In covering the world with darkness, she reveals the stars. In bringing night, she makes the cosmos visible. Part 15, Personal Darkness. But Nyx is not only cosmic. She is also personal, intimate, immediate. Each of us experiences darkness. Each of us knows what it is to close our eyes, to surrender to sleep, to let consciousness slip away into the unknown territory of dreams. And each of us knows darker experiences as well. We know grief, that darkness of the heart. We know fear, that darkness of anticipation. We know depression, that darkness of the spirit when the world loses color and hope seems far away. We know uncertainty, that darkness of not knowing what will come, of standing at a crossroads in the dark with no light to guide us. These darknesses, too, are part of Nyx's realm. These shadows, too, fall under her dominion. And the ancient wisdom, the wisdom of the Greeks who honored Nyx, suggests that we should not deny these darknesses or pretend they don't exist or immediately try to banish them with artificial light. Darkness has its own wisdom. Grief teaches us about love. We would not grieve if we had not loved. Fear teaches us what we value. We fear losing what matters to us. Depression, though painful, sometimes forces us to stop, to rest, to retreat, to let go of unsustainable patterns. Uncertainty teaches us humility. We do not control everything. We do not know everything. We must learn to live with mystery. This does not mean we should seek darkness or wallow in suffering. But it means we should recognize that darkness is part of existence, that night follows day as surely as day follows night, that there are rhythms to life that include both light and shadow. Nyx, in her ancient wisdom, represents the acceptance of this rhythm. She does not apologize for her darkness. She does not try to be day. She is night completely and confidently, and she knows that night is necessary, night is valuable, night is good. Part 16, The Meeting of Day and Night. Let us return once more to that moment the ancient poets described, to that threshold of the house of night where Humra and Nyx meet each day, where day and night pass each other in their eternal exchange. Imagine it, the bronze threshold, the great gates, the precise moment of transition. Humra returns from her journey across the world, tired perhaps, ready to rest. Nyx prepares to depart, refreshed from her day's sleep, ready to spread darkness once more. They meet, they touch, Mother and daughter, night and day, darkness and light. Perhaps they embrace. Perhaps they murmur words of greeting and farewell. Perhaps they say nothing at all, their meeting so habitual, so natural that words are unnecessary. And then they part. Humra enters, Nyx departs. The transition is complete. Evening has become night. Day has given way to darkness. This image, this moment, encapsulates something profound about existence. It suggests that opposites are not enemies but partners, not contradictions but complements. Day and night need each other. Each defines the other. Each makes the other possible. Without night, day would have no meaning. Without rest, waking would have no purpose. Without darkness, light would have no contrast. Without Nyx, Humra would be nothing. And the same is true in reverse. Without day, night would lose its significance. Without waking, sleep would not be rest but something else entirely, perhaps death, perhaps oblivion. Without light, darkness would not be darkness but simply nothing, undefined, meaningless. The meeting at the threshold teaches us about balance, about rhythm, about the necessity of both sides of any duality. It teaches us not to privilege one over the other but to honor both, to recognize that both are essential, that both are sacred. Part 17, Nyx in our own night. And so we come, finally, to this moment, to this night, to this darkness in which you are resting, to this sleep that is slowly claiming you. You are, in this moment, in the realm of Nyx. You are experiencing what humans have experienced for all of human history, and indeed for all of mammalian history and beyond. The daily surrender to darkness, the nightly death and rebirth, the cyclical letting go that sleep requires. Your eyes are growing heavy. Your breathing is slowing. Your thoughts are becoming less focused, more dreamlike. The boundaries between waking and sleeping are growing blurred. You are entering that threshold state, that twilight zone between Humra's world and Nyx's world. Soon, Hypnos will touch you with his gentle hand. Soon, the Onera will visit you with their dreams. Soon, you will be fully in the house of night, wandering its shadowed halls, experiencing the strange landscapes that only darkness can reveal. And this is good. This is right. This is the natural order of things, the pattern established at the very beginning when Nyx first emerged from chaos, when darkness first made itself known as a power, a presence, a necessary force. Do not fight it. Do not resist. The darkness will not harm you. Nyx is not your enemy. She is your nightly hostess, welcoming you into her house, offering you the gift of rest, the blessing of dreams, the renewal that only darkness can provide. Let your body relax. Let your mind grow quiet. Let yourself drift on the dark current of sleep, trusting in the ancient rhythm, knowing that morning will come, that Humra will return, that you will wake refreshed and renewed. For now, rest in the embrace of Nyx. Rest in the primordial darkness. Rest in the deep knowing that night is not absence but presence, not nothing but something, not the end but the middle, the necessary pause, the vital rest between one day and the next. The house of night stands at the edge of the world, at the boundary between life and death, between waking and sleeping, between the known and the unknown. And you are welcome there. You are safe there. You are home. Part 18, the eternal night. There is one more aspect of Nyx we should consider before we let you sleep completely. One more dimension to the goddess of night that the ancient Greeks understood, and that might bring us, paradoxically, a deeper peace. Nyx was not only the night that falls and lifts each day. She was also the eternal night, the final darkness, the ultimate rest. Remember that her son is Thanatos, death himself. Remember that her house stands at the boundary between the world of the living and the realm of the dead. Remember that she is a primordial force, existing before creation and presumably existing after creation as well, the darkness into which all things eventually return. This is not a frightening thought, though it might seem so at first. The Greeks did not see death as the enemy, not in the way we sometimes do. They saw it as natural, as inevitable, as part of the pattern, as much as birth and life and all the stages in between. Death was Thanatos, the gentle young man with the inverted torch, brother to sleep, son of night. Death was the final sleep, the last rest, the ultimate surrender to darkness. And in some ways, this made death less frightening, not more. If death was sleep, if death was a return to the house of night, if death was simply the final stage of a journey that began with birth and included countless smaller cycles of sleeping and waking, then it was natural, comprehensible, even peaceful. The Greeks did not claim to know what happened after death. At least, different Greeks had different ideas, and the mystery religions offered hope of something better than the shadowy half-existence of the common dead in Hades. But they did seem to understand that death was not alien, not foreign, not the opposite of life, but rather life's completion, its final note, its natural conclusion. And death took place in darkness, in the realm of Nyx. It was a return to the primordial night, a going back to the source, a rejoining of the great darkness from which all things had emerged. This thought, contemplated from the safety and comfort of life, of this moment, of this not yet the final sleep, can be strangely comforting. It reminds us that we are part of a larger pattern, a cosmic rhythm. We are not separate from the universe but embedded in it, subject to its laws, participants in its great cycles. We are born into light, yes, but we were formed in darkness, the darkness of the womb, that first house of night. We live in the alternation of light and dark, waking and sleeping, activity and rest. And eventually we return to darkness, to the eternal night, to the final rest. And this is as it should be. This is the pattern. This is the way things are, the way they have always been, the way they will always be. Nyx, eternal Nyx, watches over all of it. From the first darkness before creation to the last darkness after the end of all things, she is present, she endures, she abides. Conclusion, the blessing of night. And so our story comes to its end, or perhaps to its own threshold, the place where story gives way to sleep, where words give way to dreams, where conscious thought gives way to the unconscious wanderings of the night. We have traveled far in our imagination. We have stood at the bronze gates of the house of night. We have met the children of Nyx, sleep and death, dreams and fate, strife and friendship, all the mysterious forces that shape existence. We have seen Nyx herself, as much as any mortal can see her in her vast and primordial power. We have learned something perhaps about darkness and light, about night and day, about the rhythms and cycles that govern all existence. But more than anything, we have been reminded of something simple and profound. That night is good, that darkness has its place, that rest is necessary and blessed and sacred. As you drift now into sleep, as Hypnos touches you with his gentle hand, as the Waniroi approach with their cargo of dreams, remember that you are participating in something ancient and holy. You are enacting the nightly ritual that every human who has ever lived has enacted. You are surrendering to the darkness, trusting in the night, accepting the gift that Nyx offers. May your sleep be deep and restful. May your dreams be gentle. May you wake refreshed, renewed, reborn into the light of a new day. But for now, rest. Rest in the house of night. Rest in the embrace of Nyx, the ancient one, the primordial darkness, the great goddess who has watched over the sleeping world since time began. The stars are glittering in her veil. The moon is traveling across her sky. The darkness is soft and safe and welcoming. Sleep now, sleep peacefully, sleep well. Nyx is watching over you, as she has always watched over all who sleep, as she will always watch until the end of time and beyond. Good night, good night, good night.